The sun was casting its golden light on the city when Lamont heard his name called over the echoing intercom. The stern voice, which had been routinely barking commands for the past few days, now offered a sweet harmony. Lamont was being released. His heart leapt with a burst of exhilaration as the heavy steel door of the bullpen clanged open for him, the air seemingly turning lighter, the world more vibrant. The concrete corridors of the jail that had felt claustrophobically close before now echoed with a melody of freedom. Lamont's steps, for the first time in days, felt buoyant, each footfall reverberating with a taste of liberty. He was led to a counter, the final checkpoint, where his personal belongings were returned. The process was unexpectedly mundane. An officer, a different one from the force that had been tormenting them in the bullpen, rummaged through a plastic bag, calling out each item as if they were random trinkets: keys, wallet, lottery tickets, a worn-out picture of Leon. But to Lamont, they weren't just objects. They were fragments of his life that he was reclaiming, pieces of his identity that had been held captive. He gripped the items tightly in his hand, an odd joy seeping into him. The once ordinary objects held a newfound significance. They were symbols of his return to normalcy, each piece a testament to the life waiting for him beyond the suffocating confines of the jail. His hand lingered over Leon's photograph, a pang of guilt hitting him. He longed to see Leon's reassuring smile, longed to explain, to apologize. He was a free man now, but the feeling was bittersweet. It was as if his spirit, once soaring with the joy of emancipation, was being tugged back down by the weight of his past actions. But he shook off the disheartening thoughts. Now was not the time for regret, but for hope, for the promise of change. As he stepped out into the world, the sun bathed him in a comforting warmth, its golden light washing over him, promising a fresh start. For a moment, Lamont just stood there, outside the imposing gates, his senses drinking in the feeling of freedom. He took a deep breath, his lungs expanding with the fresh, untainted air. It was a stark contrast to the stale, suffocating atmosphere of the cell. Lamont couldn't help but smile as he walked down the familiar streets. He was free. The world felt new, alive with possibility. Despite the hardships he'd endured, he could still appreciate the beauty in the ordinary, the joy in the mundane, and the sweetness of a second chance. His journey had been a crucible, the ordeal forging him into a stronger, more resilient man. Emancipation, he realized, wasn't just about physical release. It was a state of mind, a personal journey from bondage to freedom, from despair to hope. And in that moment, Lamont truly felt emancipated. The city never looked as beautiful as it did on the ride back. The sun had just begun to set, casting long shadows that gave the worn-out buildings a certain magical appeal. Street vendors had started packing their carts, and children were returning home from their play, the lingering laughter floating in the air. As the taxi turned into the familiar neighborhood, Lamont's heart pounded with anticipation. A strange uneasiness coursed through his veins. He hadn't spoken to Leon since their argument, and the guilt of leaving him alone stirred a restlessness within him. As the taxi came to a halt in front of the old apartment building, Lamont paid the fare, his thoughts racing. The building stood silent, like a tired old man at the end of a long day. He took a deep breath and climbed up the stairs, each step echoing in the quiet hallway. The apartment door loomed in front of him, the familiar sight bringing a rush of memories. His hand trembled as he reached for the doorknob, turning it slowly. The door creaked open to reveal the dimly lit living room, the quiet, all-encompassing. Leon, Lamont called, stepping inside. His voice echoed in the silence, a sense of dread creeping into his heart. The apartment was just as they'd left it. The threadbare rug, the worn-out sofa, Leon's wheelchair sitting idly by the window. And then he saw him. Leon, slumped over in his wheelchair, his body lifeless, his face marked by the cruel remnants of pain. Time froze. Lamont's heart plummeted into a void, his breath hitching in his throat. "No, no," he murmured, rushing to Leon's side. He fell to his knees, shaking Leon, trying to wake him to bring him back. But Leon was gone, his once warm and lively eyes now lifeless, his resilient spirit departed. The world around Lamont shattered. His cries echoed in the apartment, a painful symphony of loss. He clung onto Leon, the body of the man who had raised him, loved him, believed in him when no one else did. His sobs filled the room, the sound raw and gut-wrenching. The reality of Leon's death gnawed at his soul, each truth a brutal punch to his heart. The pain was too much, too real. Leon was gone, and no amount of money, no lottery win, could bring him back. The tragedy of his homecoming overwhelmed him, his victory overshadowed by the immense loss. In the silence of the apartment, with the ghost of his departed uncle, Lamont wept, his cries a testament to the heart-wrenching truth. He was truly alone. It was while standing in the convenience store, the same one he'd visited so many times with Leon, that he remembered the lottery ticket. It had been an afterthought in the wake of his arrest, a scrap of paper with scribbled numbers that now rested in his reclaimed wallet. Those numbers, spoken with a sort of desperate conviction by Leon, now echoed in his mind. In the midst of the store's familiar hum, Lamont extracted the ticket, his hand slightly trembling as he compared it with the winning numbers displayed on the TV screen behind the counter. His heart pounded as he scanned the digits. A perfect match. The reality of it felt surreal, an absurd twist in his unfortunate series of events. For a moment, he could only stare, frozen in disbelief as the world swirled around him. The impact of the win sent his mind spinning. His victory was a strange cocktail of emotions, a mix of euphoria tainted with a bitter sense of irony. Here he was, a newly minted millionaire, the winning numbers a precious parting gift from Leon. Yet the win came wrapped in regret and guilt, a reminder of their last encounter, their harsh words, the unspoken apologies that now felt more necessary than ever. Each number on the ticket bore a trace of Leon's touch, a testament to his belief in luck and destiny. Lamont could almost hear Leon's enthusiastic voice. "Numbers have power, Lamont. Remember that." It was a cruel twist of fate that the numbers Leon had so passionately insisted upon had turned out to be the golden ticket, but at a time when Lamont could not share this joy with him. The enormity of his newfound wealth stood in stark contrast to the desolation he felt about Leon's absence. Lamont found himself standing in the middle of the store, his heart pounding in his chest, the winning ticket gripped in his hand. An exhilarating sense of possibilities rushed over him, mixed with a tinge of regret and sorrow. He was a millionaire, yes, but at a cost he hadn't anticipated. The irony wasn't lost on him. The universe had played its game well, he thought, offering him the highs and lows of life in such quick succession. The lottery ticket, Leon's last gift, was a bittersweet reminder of what he had lost and what he had gained. Despite the turn of events, Lamont felt a newfound determination welling up within him. He wasn't sure what the future would bring, but he knew one thing for certain. He would use his windfall to honor Leon's memory, to right the wrongs of his past, and to build a better future, a promise Leon would have wanted him to keep.